Such a beautiful Sunday to everyone that is watching. A very good afternoon, and to those that have been, well, communing with God. Great for you. Thank you so much for watching the UBC News Roundup today on the 4th of July, Sunday 2021. My name is Sharon. Kyomugisha. In our top stories of the week, police this week recovered 3 guns from suspected assassins of the botched-up murder of Works Minister General Katumba Wamala that ended the life of his daughter and that of his driver. The guns are also linked to previous murders of prominent figures in the country.
Security has put out of action another suspect involved in the shooting at General Katumba Wamala, where his daughter and driver succumbed to a rain of bullets. Mustafa Ramalani, codenamed Amin, was at a scene leading police where the guns were hidden when he attempted to flee from the security team.
And in such situations, these are terrorists. We shall have no alternative than to put you out of action.
According to Lokech, the action to kill Amin was executed because such people are well trained and are sophisticated people to deal with.
When you are going to handle these people, you need also to be very, very careful. Others even blow themselves off. I have been in those situations myself.
At least 2 SMGs guns and 1 pistol concealed underground have been recovered by Uganda police in the ongoing operation to crack down on the criminals linked to allied democratic forces. The guns were recovered from Juma Said, a resident of Kyomugisha zone, Bukasa Parish, Namuwongo.
You remember the rider who was riding Master in a yellow jacket, the orange jacket, with a Gapco jacket, is Juma Said, with the helmet. We found the jacket and the helmet in the ceiling.
These are the guns that were used in the assassination of former police spokesperson Andrew Felix Kawesi and Major Chigundu Muhammad.
That it was the same cartridges that was got at Kawesi's and Kigundu. They have similar characteristics. That's how you analyze some of these things.
The installation of cameras has played a key role in the process of cracking down these criminals. Major General Lokech believes more integration of this apparatus and human intelligence will strengthen security.
Criminality gets sophisticated day in and day out. That's why we need always to be ahead of them.
Information obtained from police indicates that 4 suspects are in custody, while Hussein Wahabu Rubwama and Mustafa Ramalani have been gunned down. The main cell leader in Uganda, identified as Sheikh Abu Ubaida Bukenya, is still at large, and colleague believed to be nicknamed Kanabe. Ivan Kahwa, UBC News at Naguru Police Headquarters, Kampala.
Still in the course of the week, Chief of Defence Forces General Wilson Basumbadi this week assumed office following his appointment by the Commander-in-Chief of Defence Forces and President of Uganda General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni last week. While handing over the instrument of power at Mbuya-based Ministry of Defence headquarters in Kampala, the outgoing Chief of Forces General David Muhoozi urged the successor to be on the lookout of threats by the terrorists. Details follow.
The handover ceremony started by decorating the incoming Chief of Defence Forces from a 3-star general to a full 4-star general before he was handed over powers that comes with the office. The same incoming Chief of Defence Forces has been deputy for the last 4.5 years, and at the same ceremony, he handed over his office to the new Deputy CDF Lieutenant General Peter Eluelu, the former Commander Land Forces. The outgoing CDF, who has also been appointed State Minister for Internal Affairs, urged the successor to be on the lookout of threats by the terrorists.
In spite of these isolated cases of threats, we are generally stable. Due to the instability in DRC and South Sudan, and then of course the publicized hostility to the southwest of our frontier, we experience also sometimes episodes of insecurity adjacent to these borders. The UPDF has nevertheless effectively managed to counter all these threats, and we are in large measure peaceful and stable across the country.
The humble-looking general also tasked Mbadi to work hard to improve the welfare of the officers.
Unfinished but are very important and require your keen attention. Welfare, housing for troops. The concept for these houses is complete and is now a bankable project. It was captured in the budget speech, albeit without requisite funding. I had people cheer at Kololo, but when we looked below the veil, the money wasn't there. So I would want to caution that rather than wait for the big bang approach of doing all at once when money is available, it is advisable to scale this ambition and start with modest numbers of houses at a time for our service personnel.
General Mbadi, who hails from Kasese, joined Uganda People's Defense Forces in 1986. He worked in various army divisions, including being President Museveni's chief bodyguard. He pledged cohesion among the officers.
Because you made a good foundation by your predecessors, made by your predecessors, I promise that I will pick from there and then make my contribution just like everybody else has made his, but in the direction of making things better, making our force more effective, more efficient, more accountable.
The incoming Deputy Chief of Defense Forces, Lieutenant General Peter Eluelu, who is the former Commander Land Forces, commended President Museveni for the opportunity to serve the country.
I also want to give thanks to my President and Commander-in-Chief, His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, for the trust he has always put in me. Even when the world has rejected me, he has never. He has always stayed on the path of truth. For he has nothing in him, but he has the spirit of truth.
The Minister for Defense and Veteran Affairs, Vincent Sempija, was the chief guest at the handover ceremony. He pledged his support to the UPDF bosses to keep the peace, stability and security of the country.
All of you generals who have been promoted, on behalf of my brother Jacob, both, and our sister who is not here, we want to wish you success in your new assignments. And on behalf of that team, I wish to pledge commitment to working together with you in pushing the UPDF from the good standing your predecessors have left it at to greater heights.
Philip Aguta, UBC News in Kampala.
Lieutenant General Kainerugaba Muhoozi this week handed over command of the Special Forces Command to Brigadier Peter Kandia. Now the Chief of Defense Forces, General Wilson Mbasumbadi, officiated the handover.
At the headquarters of the Special Forces Command in Entebbe is where the change of command ceremony took place Saturday morning. The ceremony saw the Senior Presidential Advisor on Special Operations and Commander Land Forces, Lieutenant General Kainerugaba Muhoozi, handing over command of Special Forces Command to the incoming acting commander, in absentia, Brigadier General Peter Chandia. The incoming Deputy Commander SFC, Brigadier Felix Busizori, received the instruments of authority on behalf of the commander. The function was presided over by the Chief of Defence Forces, General Wilson Mbasumbadi, who congratulated the commanders upon the elevation, which he said meant added responsibility.
These appointments are an additional responsibility, but which, like the Commander-in-Chief saw in you, I have no doubt that you will execute to the best of our expectations. So we will endeavor to continue supporting you in these areas so that you have a force that is professional, it is effective, it is efficient, and accountable.
He noted that Special Forces Command started as a small force. However, the rigorousness of its leaders saw it grow into a formidable and unmatched force in terms of professionalism, training capabilities, discipline, and commitment to deliver on its tasks.
I think it started as a section in the bush when the Mzee just around our president. Eventually it grew into a PPU, and eventually it grew into a group. PGB, yes, PGB. And now it is a command. This growth has come because of the leadership, the focus with a clear purpose.
General Mbadi urged Lieutenant General Muhoozi as the new Commander Land Forces to replicate the same professionalism in the Land Force. He also called upon officers and men of Special Forces Command to accord their new commanders all the necessary support to further improve the force. The outgoing commander, Lieutenant General Muhoozi, held the Special Forces Command leadership and Uganda People's Defence Forces for supporting him in his tour of duty, especially in securing the President of the Republic of Uganda and related activities to ensure the stability of the country.
I welcome Brigadier Chandia to this new office, knowing full well he has been understudying it for a long time as Deputy Commander SFC. I am confident that you shall do a good job, Peter.
He informed the incoming commander of the impending tasks according to priority, which include building of an oxygen producing plant, adding to the existing infrastructure development requirements, restoring the culture of saving as one of the tools to further build SFC.
But here I must say that when I came in 7 months ago, I realized that our old saving culture had deteriorated to some degree. In fact, in the first few weeks, we did not have sufficient funds to run activities. I was fortunate enough to get some support from His Excellency, and this greatly helped us carry out our work. Our saving culture has been a hallmark of SFC. It's what distinguishes us from other services. It is what has helped us achieve all the things we have achieved in infrastructure development.
The incoming leadership hailed Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba for his strategic leadership of the SFC and promised to begin from where he stopped.
Sir, you have taught us many things. You have inculcated into us the culture of saving and proper utilization of resources. You have done a lot for this army, both visible and invisible achievements. So on the visible achievements, these include, but not limited to, human resource development, infrastructure development, and building different capabilities. We shall begin from where you stopped and keep the candle burning in order to keep the mighty name of Special Forces Command.
The function was attended by, among others, the Joint Chief of Staff, Major General Pod Chanda, the Chief of Staff, Air Force Major General Charles Okidi, the UPDF Chief Political Commissar Major General Masco, the UPDF Spokesperson Brigadier General Flavia Bekwaso, General Officers, Commanders, Commandants, Senior and Junior Officers, and militants, among others. Bernard Higa, UBC News, Entebbe.
The new commander, UPDF Land Forces, Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, this week received office from his predecessor, General Peter Elwelu, at an event officiated by Chief of Defence Forces, General Wilson Mbadi. This was at a ceremony held at Bombo Land Forces headquarters. More details in the story.
Arriving for the scheduled event at the Bombo General Defence Land Forces headquarters was Chief of Defence Forces, General Wilson Mbadi. He was here to officiate at the handover of the newly appointed command for UPDF Land Forces. And from one commander of the UPDF to another, General Peter Elwelu handed over the mantle to Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba.
The threats might have changed, but the goal of defending the independence and sovereignty of the motherland remains the same. This new team shall endeavor to build the capabilities of the land forces to meet those new threats.
As he commits to working closely with the other security services for purposes of Uganda's stability, he intends to focus on, among other priorities, enhancing combat capabilities,
intensifying the political education of our officers and men. I know this has been going on, and I thank the CPC for the work he has done, but we shall seek to do even more. I look forward to working with everyone in land forces in achieving these goals. I look forward to working with everyone in the UPDF.
In agreement with him was Chief of Defence Forces, General Wilson Mbadi. He emphasized the need to maintain Uganda's stability.
A soldier without political education is a potential criminal. Let's make our contribution as a team. Like Mzee Nyerere said, that it can be done. You play your part.
The ceremony also saw other officers hand and take over, including Chief of Staff and Deputy Commander, Land Forces.
When we were at school, especially high school, they used to teach us, the higher you go, the cooler it becomes. But again, in the military, the higher you go, the hotter it becomes. I'm not saying I'm withdrawing because of the heat. Instead, I'm happy and determined to face the heat.
The change of command at the UPDF's Land Force headquarters in Bombo follows recent changes in the army made by the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. This saw General Wilson Mbadi elevated to CDF, Lieutenant General Peter Elwelu to Deputy CDF, and Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba as Commander Land Forces, among others. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Congratulations to Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba. New Prime Minister Robin Nabanja this week received a mega financial donation of 530 million Ugandan shillings towards procurement of 15,000 vaccine doses for COVID-19 treatment. City businessman Hamis Chigundu donated the $500 million in cash.
A renowned Kampala businessman Hamis Chigundu is concerned that government is battling COVID-19 pandemic without much support from the private sector. This is a trend that he seeks to change through setting this precedence of a 530 million shilling donation to the National COVID-19 Task Force.
Money has no use to the dead, and COVID is not discriminating. It can take anyone down, let it be a poor person or a rich person. There is no use of money if it can't be brought forward to save lives. I call upon all these companies, big companies, to come and join hands towards this justified cause of saving lives, to see that we fight COVID-19.
Prime Minister Robin Anabanja received the cash meant to procure COVID-19 vaccines for about 15,000 patients.
5,000 doses towards my employees and tenants, and the other 10,000 doses to go out to my other fellow Ugandans.
Once the funds are received, we have a process in which they will be taken to that special account where they are placed, and from that, then the rightful processes are done for the procurement of what is meant to be procured.
Nabanja describes the gesture as worthwhile and timely.
5,000 for his companies, the employees of his companies, and 10,000 for other Ugandans. It's a big gesture. You have really shown other people that in Uganda we have people with a big heart.
The invasion of COVID-19 in Uganda in March 2020 was later punctuated by relief aid from the high and the low plus organizations. The public has always been inquisitive on how such donations were put to use, an explanation that has been provided.
The committee raised 68 billion shillings. Out of the 68 billion shillings, 38 billion was in kind. And whatever was given in kind, motor vehicles, food, and the like, was given out to the public, and the vehicles were given to the Ministry of Health as the parent ministry.
COVID-19 remains a force to reckon with, a reason Ugandans need to continuously embrace measures against the virus to protect the country against the pandemic. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Cabinet this week approved a proposal by the National COVID-19 Task Force to transfer cash to vulnerable persons in urban areas who depend on daily earnings, which has been interrupted by the COVID-19 containment measures. At least 100,000 Ugandan shillings will be disbursed to each person.
As the second wave of COVID-19 intensifies, President Yoweri Museveni on 18th June instituted new measures that included the 41 days of partial lockdown to curb large gatherings and movements of persons to reduce further infections of the pandemic. Unlike last year, during the first lockdown, when government distributed food to the urban poor, majority in Kampala metropolitan area, this time relief will be distributed in form of cash to the most affected individuals. The Minister of Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baliomonsi, led a team of ministers on the task force to brief the country on how Cabinet intends to fulfill this through the Office of the Prime Minister and the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development.
Yesterday, 28 June 2021, Cabinet approved the proposal that I presented on behalf of the National Task Force to transfer to the vulnerable persons in urban areas who depend on daily earning, and their daily earning has been interrupted by COVID-19 containment, a total of 100,000 shillings net each. The purpose of this intervention is to be guided by nature of occupation.
The categories to benefit include bus, taxi drivers and conductors, border riders, baggage carriers, wheelbarrow pushers, touts, traffic guides and loaders in taxi, bus parks and stages, and other major centers such as Chikubo. Others include barmen, DJs, barmaids, waiters and bouncers, bar, gym and restaurant workers, food vendors in bus, taxi parks and arcades, artists that include musicians, comedians, producers and promoters, boda riders, special hire and Uber drivers, saloons and massage parlor workers, teachers and support staff in private schools, and teachers in government schools not on government payroll will also be considered. Others will be car washers, slum dwellers, street vendors, shoeshiners and cobblers, orphans, and vulnerable children. According to the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Betty Amongi, registration targeting 107 households countrywide, 38% of which in Kampala Metropolitan, kicks off tomorrow up to 4th July.
However, I want to indicate that most of the data for these informal workers are already with the town clerks.
Minister Mongi further broke down how this money is expected to be spent.
Purchase of 20 kilograms of posho, and we have calculated a kilo of posho at 2,000, that gives you 40,000. Purchase of 10 kilograms of beans at 2,500, which gives you 25,000. Purchase of 1 bar of soap at 3,000. Purchase of 3 liters of cooking oil at 4,000 a liter, which gives you 12,000. And if you calculate that, will give you 80,000. Then we decided to add for you 20,000 for any other thing.
The Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Matia Kasaija, said a total of 64.7 billion Uganda shillings has been set aside to cater for the same. Other sectors will also benefit from the 600 billion approved by Cabinet for Uganda to overcome the pandemic.
So health, 206, they are taking the lion's share, 0.4 billion. Security, 50.0 billion. Relief, which Honorable Minister in charge of that sector has been telling you, is 54.7 billion. Then local government, they will take 53.7, and then ICT 8.1 billion.
They will enforce SOPs, they will support, make sure that there is no criminality taking advantage of the lockdown. There must be protection of lives and the property of the people.
Up to 1,180 COVID-19 patients are currently admitted to hospitals. The government reported 345 new infections and 38 new deaths for June 27, pushing the cumulative total infections to 79,434 and deaths to 989.
The good news, and which we want you, the media, to pass on, with that majority of the people who contract coronavirus actually recover from it.
Bernard Higa, UBC News, Kampala.
In the course of the week, a 40-member Parliamentary Oversight Committee on COVID-19 pandemic this week summoned Ministry of Health officials led by Dr. Ruth Acheng, and top on agenda was an interaction on fake COVID-19 vaccinations to over 800 Ugandans around Kampala. Details follow.
The Parliamentary Oversight Committee on COVID-19 led by MP Abdu Katuntu starts its work this week. The fake vaccination allegations to over 800 Ugandans have started their work, and the Minister for Health, Dr. Ruth Acheng, will be the first to be interrogated.
Everything related or incidental to COVID, we shall interrogate it. In a situation like this, we have so many people of bad manners who like to take advantage of a bad situation, a crisis, to make money or to enrich themselves, both immorally and unlawfully. We also want to find out if a situation like that has arisen, what has government done to that particular health unit where counterfeit drugs were being injected to our people, because that tantamount to murder.
It is a shame really to the country that we can have fake vaccination, that you have fake, that people are going around selling, people are going around the country vaccinating our people with the wrong vaccinations. But whereas it is a shame, it is not surprising. We have had ghost soldiers.
The members of parliament have also urged President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and other arms of government to investigate the racket behind this scam and be prosecuted before the courts of law.
It's a call upon for the president, since one of the activities took oath about to protect Ugandans and their property. Therefore, this is the first #1 insecurity to Ugandans, where we expect the president to come up with a louder voice to issue an ultimatum to all ministries, including the Uganda National Bureau of Standards, to take action to find out whether they are real waters or there were other chemicals injected into Ugandans. And if there were just mere waters, what were the major intentions of such personnel using such waters?
The members are now worried that this kind of habit will affect the progress of fighting COVID-19 in the country.
Before we go to that, we think we need to investigate and find out the crux of the matter, how true it is. And if it is true, then we can exercise our power to hold people responsible.
The fake vaccination was administered to different companies around Kampala at a range of 100,000 shillings to 200,000 shillings per individual. The State House Health Monitoring Unit intervened after a tip-off from a whistleblower. Philip Aguta, UBC News in Kampala.
Well, police this week impounded several vehicles of those in breach of COVID-19 standard operating procedures. Police mounted several roadblocks around the central business district of Kampala, as well as using mobile apps to ascertain which vehicle has been cleared by the licensing body.
There are several reasons why police may impound a car. Perhaps the car's driver has accumulated too many unpaid traffic tickets, and if a driver gets pulled over upon suspicion of being under the influence of drugs or alcohol, the officer will order the vehicle to be impounded to the police lot. However, in today's move by police to impound the over 1,000 vehicles, none of the above applied, but a notice had been to enforce the presidential directive on restrictions of movement in line with COVID-19 standard operating procedures. Many whose cars were impounded were served with an impoundment notice, which calls for a tow truck to take the vehicle away to a storage facility. Under the impoundment notice, one has to pay the towing and the storage fees before he or she can get a vehicle back, or the vehicle be impounded for 28 days. The other category of road users who fell victims were motorists who were entering Kampala city. Their motorcycles, like vehicle owners, were impounded on account that they never possessed stickers upon verification. In accordance with the presidential directive and COVID-19 SOPs, Ministry of Health adopted by the 10th Parliament, vehicle owners and motorists could be charged in court for violation of quarantine and restriction of movement regulations 2020. The statement that police is basing on to prefer criminal charges against the defaulters say the lockdown order restriction movement and other social, religious and economic activities in all affected and closing inter-district border crossing is strictly enforced from the time it was declared. However, the local leaders have appealed to road users who do not fall in the category of essential workers to obey the set COVID-19 guidelines by the Ministry of Health and the presidential directive on lockdown to avoid clashing with security agencies enforcing the directives.
Ugandans, those who foot from your homes to towns, if you don't have anything to do in town, please don't go. You stay home. People who are coming to towns every time, you're making our police officers fight because they are chasing you out of town, because it's your life. it's not someone's life.
We can visit the RDC officers, the LC1 chairpersons, then we fake sickness. You see a number of people flocking in the town, yet this is a war.
Saddam Mubale, Joel Vubia, UBC News, Kampala.
The Ministry of Relief and Disaster Preparedness this week disbursed 50 million Ugandan shillings, I beg your pardon, to Bundibujo District COVID-19 Task Force to conduct mass sensitization about the pandemic. The Line Minister for Disaster, Esther Nyuka, was checking on refugees pouring in from DR Congo, fearing massacre going on there.
The skyrocketing influx of asylum seekers from volatile Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo entering Uganda through Toroko and Bundibujo districts is caused by a Ugandan-based rebel group in DRC, the ADF, that has maimed, killed many and left homesteads touched to the ground through the earth scorch policy. However, the influx of vulnerable Congolese comprised of women, the young ones and the elderly is worrying leaders in Uganda.
Those people have been tested and some of them have tested positive. It is really the point to worry about.
Bubukwanga Transit Center in Bundibujo district is one of the major refugee settlement camps, apparently hosting over 2,000 war victims, but resources to cater for them are still a mere drop on an ink in an ocean, according to responsible authorities.
We still have a challenge because there are some refugees who are still in our communities. Now, I want to appeal to you agencies to ensure that these people are brought from there to this camp.
With the hellish life in the camp, the asylum seekers of Congolese origin are left with no option but to flee the camp to host communities in search of casual labor on private farms where they are given small wages to cater for their families.
And our people were taking advantage of that cheap labor, so they were taking them on as domestic workers. Others were working on people's shambas.
While independent humanitarian analysts have described the situation here as hard life in a wilderness, the Uganda government is focusing much on health to protect both its national and the Congolese asylum seekers. Esther Anyakun is Uganda's Minister for Disaster on her first tour of duty to Bubukwang Transit Settlement Camp. She revealed that the Ugandan government had dispatched 50 million Ugandan shillings to Bundibujo District Task Force for mass sensitization against the novel COVID-19 virus.
The government of Uganda is releasing funds for the district task force teams to ensure that sensitization is ongoing in the districts up to the LC level.
As life gets harder to the Congolese asylum seekers at Kanara Town Council is another point where internally displaced Ugandans by the increasing waters of Lake Albert are stationed like the Congolese in their need. They also plead to relocate them to safer places. Many of these IDPs have lost their homesteads and properties to water. However, in the interim, the Uganda government had proposed to carve out part of Toro Semoliki Wildlife Reserve to the internally displaced persons for resettlement. However, the plans have since remained a dream on paper.
They didn't have burial land. It has been an outstanding concern, but that one was handled. They have 10 acres for burial.
The infection rate for COVID-19 in Bundibujo stands at 30%. So far, 40 asylum seekers have tested positive of COVID-19 and only 5 are under institutional quarantine, while others are still in community.
A Chole parliamentary group this week appealed to government not to tax non-medical supplies that will be imported by St. Mary's Hospital, Lacor, as soon. Now, this comes at a time when the hospital is receiving applause for its low cost of treating COVID-19.
The Acholi Parliamentary Group is pledging to work closely with the government to ensure non-medical supplies are not taxed because they are needed by medical workers to treat a patient's specific illness or injury in accordance with the physician's plan of care that are directly identifiable to an individual patient. Many of these non-medical supplies are not provided by government. They are bought by the hospital.
Demand from the government now to increase the kind of subsidy that the government is giving to Lacho Hospital. That is one key issue. There are the Acholi Parliamentary Group. We promise that when we live here, we're going to work together and make sure we request from government.
The MP for Kilak North, Anthony Akol, emphasized that the hospital is serving the impoverished Ugandans and subsidies should be given as motivation.
If you joke with issue of health, you are a candidate to a hospital. We are all candidates to a hospital. Health is wealth. However resources you have, so long as your health is not okay, you are a poor person. So it is important now that the government should come to support Lacho Hospital in terms of the oxygen facility. Support full requirement of hospital.
The board member of Lacho Hospital, Atim Koti, said it is expensive to run the facility.
You have the money to bring it here, install, train the people who need to work on it, purchase all the stuff it needs, like the gas plant, it needs the oil, special oil from abroad. All these things you need to have planned for ahead.
The Badege Laibi MP and former Gulu District LC5 chairperson Ojara Martin Mapenduzi says the hospital is a ray of hope for the country.
Stories where some people who unfortunately died from Kampala, still to release the dead body you have to pay 80 million or you have to deposit your land title. And so the story is quite different from what is happening here. Lacho is doing something exceptional that needs recognition, but also needs everyone to step forward and start to support.
St. Mary's Hospital, Lacho, has registered at least 3,000 cases of COVID-19. Unfortunately, 78 staff and 110 students have tested positive since March 2020. The secretary of the Acholi Parliamentary Group, Kilak South, MP Gilbert Olanya, says this is an issue they will raise on the floor of Parliament.
Private hospitals are charging more than 3 million, 10 million, 5 million. Others are going up to 100 million. Up to 100 million. Therefore, for Lacho Hospital, the case is quite unique.
The absence of PPEs at Lira COVID-19 treatment center is becoming a source of fear among frontline health workers. Apparently, the treatment center is running without an N95 masks, which are necessary days required to handle COVID-19 patients.
That's the plan that I talked about, plan of monitoring. It's not there. That, there is monitoring in the districts at these levels, in the health centers, that you are monitoring this. There is no plan. So they only test those who are sick, those who are in trucks, those who are traveling abroad, those who are going to visit Mr. Museveni. So, and this is where the country should worry. Today there is technology, even to test yourself at home. One doesn't even need to go to hospital. There is technology to test.
Lira Regional Referral Hospital is the only treatment center serving all the 9 districts in Lamu sub-region. The center is currently managing 20 COVID-19 patients, with 11 critically ill, while 8 are on oxygen. However, the center is currently threatened by lack of PPEs to manage its patients.
They're so inadequate, and as I talk right now, we don't have it completely. So that is the biggest challenge we have with that facility. Otherwise, they are doing their best to save lives.
Lawrence Igoli, the head of COVID-19 task force in Lira City, applauded the health workers in the facility for saving many lives, registering more recoveries than deaths.
I'm grateful to the Ministry of Health because of late we got some more supply of cylinders and the regulators. So now people forget that these cylinders are needed only for COVID patients, but there are those who need it They have always been there. We need them in the male ward, in the female ward, name them. There are so many.
In the third consignment of vaccines recently distributed, Lira received 1,500 doses, with the priority being given to those taking the second jab.
We shall also consider teachers and then some of our security personnel who do not receive, and some elderly who really need them.
The jobs have been distributed to different facilities in the city and the district in order to decongest the vaccination sites.
It happens that there are more children here.
PAG Mission Health Center, that was recently upgraded to a general hospital, is one of the facilities to carry out vaccination in the city.
At first we got the priority, the target population were not so much responding, but of recent they responded. And as we are all aware, there was a span of time where we didn't have vaccines, but yesterday we received the vaccine. The district health office has also trained additional team that should be able, from tomorrow or Thursday, we should be able to start off vaccination immediately, following strictly the guidelines that will come from the district health office.
Dickens Ogwal, the medical superintendent of PAG Hospital, said the facility is committed to triaging all patients that visit the facility.
So right from the gate, as you saw, we are able to take the temperature. If the temperature is suspiciously high, we have a particular place, we don't mix them.
Those who got their first job and waiting for the second had this to say.
And I was encouraging people who are fearing to get this vaccination. It is easy.
So if you're a mother out there, I also want to encourage you that we want you to be alive, because you carry life actually.
With the 2 deaths registered in the last 2 days from COVID-19 in Lira, authorities still continue to urge all members of the public to adhere to the presidential directives issued on the 18th of June in order to curb the spread of COVID-19. Eddie Olua, UBC News.
Well, UBC News Roundup will take a short commercial break and we'll be back with business stories.
Therefore, understanding this model.
Hey, excuse me, lady. Who do you think you are? A queen?
Hey, haven't you heard? Get Airtel Chillax bundles and browse like a queen.
Get Airtel Chillax bundles that do not expire and browse like a queen or king. Dial *175# or use My Airtel app.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
As the financial year 2020-2021 draws to an end, URA has put measures in place to facilitate taxpayers to file their returns and pay taxes within the set deadline. All our offices across the country and the URA Contact Center shall remain open to provide extra support to our esteemed taxpayers. Additionally, we have extended our contact center service hours from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday to Friday, and from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturdays and public holidays. In light of the COVID-19 risks, we encourage taxpayers to reach us through our improved contact center and other online platforms instead of making physical visits to our offices. For online support, please reach us through our toll-free lines 0800 117 000 or 0800 217 000. Email services@ura.go.ug. Website ura.go.ug. Social media: Facebook, URA page, Twitter @URA Uganda. URA Customs Help Tool, help.ura.go.ug/login. URA appreciates all taxpayers who have duly fulfilled their obligations. Stay safe and let us all observe the standard operating procedures to prevent further spread of the COVID-19 virus. Stay safe as we develop Uganda together.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Century Points when you deposit, send and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go. MTN.
Fellow Ugandans, you know that the current COVID-19 period is a trying time in our lives. However, we still have another threat that has been with us for a long time, and it is called neglected tropical diseases, also known as NTDs. NTDs include bilharzia and worms that cause swollen stomachs. Trachoma causes blindness, and elephantiasis causes the swelling of legs. These diseases are affecting millions globally, and yet they can be prevented by regular hand washing with soap and clean running water, regular washing of the face with a soap and clean running water, keeping dirty hands away from your eyes, always using pit latrines, and discouraging open defecation in your community to avoid flies that carry germs, reporting to the health facility early when feeling unwell. Remember to stay safe and protect yourself. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from a SEN project.
Airtel Uganda has the best and most affordable rates when it comes to withdrawing and sending money. Withdraw money for as low as 330 shillings up to a maximum of 12,500 shillings. Sending money is just as affordable as ever. Absolutely unbeatable. Use Airtel Money on the most affordable network with the largest network of Airtel Money branches in Uganda. Dial *185# to get started. Airtel Money. Simple, secure, borderless.
You're still watching UBC News Roundup. Now, government this week negotiated a 3-year financial and economic program with the IMF of US $722 million to support the country in its monetary, economic and fiscal policies to maintain a strong economy. Now, the Minister for Finance and Economic Development, Kyomugisha, says that the 3-year program will cover the period of 2021 to 2024, starting with $258 US usable for budget support.
The Executive Board of the IMF on 28 June 2021 approved a 3-year financing package under the Extended Credit Facility for Uganda equivalent to $1 billion to support the post-COVID-19 recovery. According to the Deputy Governor, Bank of Uganda, Michael Atinji-Ego, the funds are meant to support government policy and structural reforms to generate additional resources to support the COVID-19 recovery.
Money is only contributing to supporting those policies and structural reforms with the view that these policies and structural reforms will generate additional resources to enhance the recovery.
Finance Minister Matia Kasaija said it was inevitable for government to request for the assistance for economic stimulus. Uganda's economy suffered both external and domestic, with an economic growth decline from 6.8% in the financial year 2018-2019 to 3.0% in financial year 2019-2020.
In this regard, Government of Uganda requested International Monetary Fund assistance to support our emergency response to the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as to support economic recovery in the short, medium, and long term.
However, Matia is optimistic that government will focus on debt sustainability while increasing social spending, including vaccines.
These funds will support Uganda to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic and our strategy of inclusive growth, employment creation, and wealth creation, as stated in NP3.
Vaccines. He appealed to all accounting officers of government to utilize all public funds at their disposal efficiently and transparently to drive growth and provide services to the people of Uganda.
I will not hesitate to institute disciplinary measures on any accounting officer who fails to provide accountability or execute timely government projects and programs.
The program will include reforms to increase domestic revenues, foster public sector efficiency, and strengthen governance while preparing the ground for sound management of oil revenues. The Minister for ICT, Chris Bariomonsi, has backed the decision to borrow from IMF, saying it's one way of supporting the budget.
Basically, the money is to support the general economy, like to increase the capacity of raising domestic revenues, to strengthen governance issues, to strengthen public sector performance, and generally to stimulate the economy so that even when we have these shocks from COVID-19, the economy can remain strong and resilient.
Jane Kyomugisha, Ivan Juko, UBC News.
Salt business in Katwe, Kabatoro town council in Kasese district has gone down as a result of COVID-19 lockdown. Communities dealing in salt mining say the closure of the borders and the inter-district travels in the country has run down the business from 100% to 50%.
They pray hard to ensure that COVID-19 pandemic scales down, for they have a lot of salt stocks stored and ready to be transported to markets. According to the chairperson, Lake Katwe Salt Winners Savings and Credit Cooperative Society, Haj Rajab Juma, says he's optimistic that when Uganda is free from corona pandemic, business would resume normally. However, the good relationship Uganda has started with the Democratic Republic of Congo is an added advantage to market opportunities of their salt stockpiles. According to the principal town clerk of Katwe, Kabatoro Town Council, Catherine Mbahimba, the demand for salt has gone down because of foot and mouth disease that has killed a lot of livestock in some parts of the country.
The artisanal miners have piled and stocked enough salt, but the people to come and take it are coming in slowly, are unable to move, to go, to come and buy salt. Therefore, businesses that stand still and their animals are getting affected back home.
Catherine confirmed that salt miners have stocked enough, but buyers cannot make it to the mines due to the presidential directive restricting movements as a measure to scale down the spread of COVID-19.
The movement restrictions, of course, movements have been hard. Although it is allowed that cargo may move, but we have seen that the inflow of trucks has reduced compared to the usual. The season we are in is a peak season because it is a dry season, and that's when we have a lot of salt production.
Catherine is not ruling out continued challenges of service delivery. Meanwhile, the mayor of Katwe, Kabatoro Town Council, Kananura John Bosco, says the partial lockdown has affected revenue collections, hindering service delivery too.
Of course, like you know, inter-district movement has been reduced, or sometimes people crisscrossing, say maybe from Wera coming this side, because sometimes we have extractors moving from that side coming to the extraction here, just to guard ourselves against contracting the disease.
Well, that's all we had for you for now. Thank you so much for watching UBC News Roundup today with me, Sharon. Have a lovely afternoon and a great week ahead of you.
Fellow taxpayers, ladies and gentlemen,